Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to dive into a totally new way of thinking about automation. We're going way beyond just connecting a couple of apps. We're talking about making your workflows, well, intelligent.
So, let's just kick things off with a huge question. What if your workflows could actually think? Seriously, what if they could make decisions, analyze all that data, and reason through problems, instead of just blindly moving information from point A to point B? This, right here, is the core challenge that pretty much all of today's automation tools just can't handle.
And that brings us to something that we can call the automation gap. It's this massive space between simply shuffling data around and what we actually want, which is true intelligent decision-making happening right inside our business processes.
I mean, think about it. On one side, you have your traditional tools. And look, they're great for what they do. Sending a form entry over to a spreadsheet. Simple stuff. But on the other side is what we really, really need. Intelligent automation that can actually use that data to make smart choices.
Okay, so let's get into the solution that was designed from the ground up to bridge this exact gap. This is where a whole new category of AI-first automation comes onto the scene, and it's being led by a platform called Gumloop.
So what is Gumloop? Well, it's an AI-first automation platform. And that phrase, AI-first, is absolutely key here. It means AI isn't some add-on or an afterthought. It's baked into every single step of a workflow, which fundamentally changes what's even possible to automate. This didn't just appear out of nowhere. The platform was founded back in 2023 by Rahul Bahal and Max Brodeur-Urbaz. They looked at the landscape and saw that all the existing tools were great at moving data, but they were terrible at making decisions with it. That realization, that decision gap, is the entire reason Gumloop even exists. And it's already making waves. We're talking about major companies like Shopify and Instacart using it for some really complex work. Things like automating sophisticated SEO workflows, enriching sales leads with the latest data, or even handling complex customer support tickets, all of it at scale.
So we get what Gumloop is and why it was created. But how does it actually work? Well, the core of the whole thing is a visual canvas where you build your automations using these little building blocks called nodes.
Just think of a node like a single Lego brick. Each one represents one specific action or decision in your workflow. It could be something simple like read this email, or something complex like analyze the sentiment of this text, or update this record in our database.
And you're not starting with an empty box of Legos. Gumloop gives you a library of over 120 of these pre-built native nodes for all the popular services you can think of. This means you can get started right away, connecting to the tools you're already using every day.
But hold on, this is where Gumloop completely changes the game. See, there are two kinds of nodes. You've got your normal native nodes, those pre-built integrations for stuff like Slack and Salesforce, but then you have something called MCP nodes. This is where you can literally just describe what you need in plain English, and the AI will build a custom node for any API right there on the spot. This is a huge deal. It takes something that used to require a developer and makes it accessible to anyone. It is a true game changer.
And every single node, doesn't matter if it's simple or super complex, has three basic parts. You've got inputs, which is just the data coming into the node. Then you have parameters, which are the settings you use to tell the node what to do. And finally, outputs, which is the result that the node spits out to the next step in the chain. Simple as that. Okay, but what about actually building these big, complex workflows? If you're not a developer, that might still sound kind of intimidating. Well, this is where the real magic happens. Let's talk about Gumloop's AI copilot, Gummy.
Because let's be honest with ourselves for a second. The hardest part of any of these automation platforms isn't running the workflow. It's staring at a blank canvas trying to figure out how in the world to build it in the first place. That initial setup is a massive hurdle for most people.
With Gummy, you don't build, you just ask. You can literally type a prompt just like this one, a completely normal, conversational request that describes a really complex, multi-step process, one that involves a bunch of different apps and even different AI models. The process is just ridiculously simple. First, you describe your goal in plain English. Then, Gummy's AI gets to work, figures out what you mean, and builds the entire workflow for you right in front of your eyes. It places the nodes, connects them all up, and sets up the logic. All that's left for you to do is review it and maybe tweak a few things. It just completely flattens the learning curve. So, building the workflow is one piece of the puzzle, but running it reliably day after day is a whole different story.
Gumloop is built with professional, production-ready features to make sure your automations are rock-solid and dependable.
Every single automation needs a starting pistol, right? A signal that says, go! In the world of automation, those are called triggers. A trigger is just the event that kicks off your workflow and tells it that it's time to run.
And you've got 4 main options. You can trigger it manually, just by clicking a button. You can run it on a time-based schedule, like every morning at 9 a.m. sharp. You can have another service start it using a webhook, or you can have it run automatically whenever a specific event happens in an app you've connected, like a new email landing in your inbox.
And beyond just starting the workflows, there are some other tools here that are, honestly, total lifesavers. The Run Report lets you debug in real time and see exactly what went wrong and where. The Resume button is incredible. It lets you restart a failed workflow from a specific step, which saves you a ton of time and credits. And of course, you have fully customizable schedules.
Okay, I know that was a ton of information, but getting started is actually so much simpler than it sounds. Let's just walk through how you can build your very first automation today.
First, and this is probably the most important part, it's completely free to get started. There's no paywall. You don't even need to put in a credit card to sign up and just start playing around with it.
So here is your simple 3-step plan. Number 1, go create your free account. Number 2, I want you to think of just one repetitive, mind-numbing task you have to do every single week. Just one. And number 3, open up Gummy and just ask it to build that automation for you. You are going to be blown away about how fast you can go from just an idea to a fully working automation.
You know, at the end of the day, every workflow you successfully automate isn't just about efficiency. It's an hour of your life that you've reclaimed to do more creative, more valuable work. So the real question is, what are you going to build first?